history timeline.
Oh, really?
At a computer. It is by no means all-inclusive. But there are a few things that may be new to some people, hopefully. The first item is that people have been living happily in Claiborne for eons of time. Literally. Anyone who takes the trouble can easily find Native American artifacts all over the area. And over where I live, there are buried shell middens showing that there were lots of people who loved oysters who lived in the area. Scholars tell us that the native people went over to the ocean for the summer, which sounds like a great idea and a tradition that has kind of been carried on. The second cove on the right, as you come in Tillman's Creek, historically has been called Abrams Cove. And the legend has been that Abrams was a pirate, and he kept his boat hidden up at the head of that cove. Well, very recently my daughter, Priscilla Morris, has done some research and has found that there was a man named Cornelius Abrams who lived in this area between 1645 and 55. He was married to Frances Bennett from Bennett Point, directly across the Miles River. And this was the period when the people who were loyal to Maryland and the Calverts were fighting William Claiborne on Kent Island. So it is very likely that Cornelius Abrams really was a privateer or a pirate. And that,
Molly, what is the second cove on the right called?
Abrams Cove, it's where I live.
Oh, okay.
In 1652, James Mitchell took up the patent for Rich Neck Manor. I don't think he ever came here. He was more like a real estate agent. But that is the earliest date for Rich Neck. The most famous person who has lived in Claiborne was Matthew Tillman. He was born in 1718 and died in 1790. In 1751, he was elected to the Maryland legislature. From 74 to 76, he was on the in the Continental Congress. He was a very big supporter of the Declaration of Independence, but he did not sign the Declaration because he had to go back to Annapolis at that critical moment and help to write the Maryland Constitution. He retired from the Maryland Senate in 1783. I really don't know what the limits of Rich Neck Manor were, so this next item may not count, but Emerson Point, which is now at the intersection of Route 33 and the road into Claiborne on the Miles River side, was owned by a man named William Hamilton. And in the 1830s, Frederick Douglass frequently was on the Hamilton farm, so that may be another famous person who has been to Claiborne. In the 1760s, the Tunis family bought what was known as Little Rich Neck, which would be Claiborne, Maple Hall, and Old Claiborne. The Tunis family were in the lumber business, and they had a mill on Tillman Creek where John Cockey lives now. In 1874, there was steamboat service to appear on Tillman Creek. It could be that it was before 74. I just have that as a definitive date. I know it was definitely there then. In 1876, the Cockey family purchased Maple Hall. In 1877, Joseph Tunis built Claiborne Hall, which was on the corner of Sherwood Manor Road and Old Claiborne Road. And this is a picture of Claiborne Hall. It burned in the 1950s.
Went to school with the kids.
Joseph Tunis also, after he'd cut all the timber, needed to do something with his land, so he made an elaborate plan for the town of Claiborne. And in the 1877 atlas, a picture of his proposed development. You can see that it says Henry Clay Square. If you are riding into Claiborne now and passing Old Claiborne, there is a grove of trees that sticks out beyond the town, and that is where Henry Clay Square was threatened to be.
But that never came to be, that was never built?
No, no. But it was pretty much just as it is now. John Cockey had an addition with many, many different lots, and that never came to be. And other Tunis brothers had visions of Bay City and a railroad that went over to the coast, and they also developed Ocean City, which was a little more successful than Bay City. In 1886, the General Joseph Seth was living at Rich Neck, and he was a prominent local banker and financier, and he secured the backing to get the Baltimore and Eastern Railroad Company to come to Claiborne, or Bay City. There was a steamboat landing by then at the Claiborne Wharf, where it is now. By 1890, the railroad went all the way to Ocean City. And many of the houses that are in Claiborne now had been built by the people who worked on the railroad. By 1890, the Baltimore, Chesapeake, and Atlantic Railroad superseded the Baltimore and Eastern. 1893, the post office was established. 1898, Protestant Episcopal Church was built in Old Claiborne, and on that picture that I passed around, you can see the church. It was the church, the chapel of the Holy Innocents. Queen Anne, who ruled was from 1702 to 1714, had sent over some silver for a church that was established on Kent Island. And by 1898, that church considered it very old-fashioned, and they had something newer and better. And so they gave that silver to the Chapel of the Holy Innocents in Claiborne. When the church was finally deconsecrated, the silver went to the Episcopal Church in St. Michael's, and I think they're very proud to have Queen Anne's silver now, and too bad about Cat Island.